Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel. We're on part 2 of the Vauxhall Zafira coolant repair. So this is the 1.7 CDTI ecoflex engine, and if you remember, well, I'll put a link to the other video down there. If you want to watch part 1, you'll find we were locating where the coolant leak was. You can see we've got quite low coolant. I've got the replacement part. It's a genuine Vauxhall replacement part because, as with a lot of coolant parts, metal pipes, things like that, there's only one way to go. So I've ordered that. There's the part code there, and it fits in somewhere roughly along those lines like that, but further down. If only it sat on the top like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get down to that component, take the old one off, compare them, make sure they're the right parts, and then get them swapped out. So just lifting that out of the way, you can see what we're going to do. Battery tray back off again. That's just resting in just whilst I had the car sat. We're going to take the turbo intake pipe off again. We're probably going to have to take the EGR actuator and the EGR cooler off as well. So I'm just going to check, because we do have some coolant in the system. Be better drain that out the header tank, drain the radiator down again, because we are going to end up pulling quite a few coolant lines, and I don't really want to get coolant everywhere. So I'm going to do all of that, and then I'll show you where I'm at as we strip down each of the different components, and I'll also give you a quick rundown on how we take each of these parts apart, so you've got an idea how they all fit and how they all come together. So there we go. Hopefully I'll be back and I'll tell you where we're up to very shortly. So quick update where we're up to in removing stuff. Taking the turbo intake and the plastic downpipe out, so that's gone. Battery tray, that's out as well, and the coolant pipe as well that goes to the thermostat. You can just see the edge of the turbo sitting down there. So the next part, just looking at the way that the pipe's orientated, you can see there's this little branch here which is just about here on the pipe that we're looking at. It's this pipe here. So next thing is to take the EGR itself off. So I'm going to start looking at taking this off here and looking to see how this is mounted in, and we should be able to take this assembly off, also the oil filler as well, and we'll see if we can get this off. Very briefly, start to take the various bolts to get the EGR cooler off. Proving quite difficult from this angle, so I think might need to take the front off so we can get at it from this angle. So very briefly, a few torques to release this, and you see it's now hanging at the front, and if you just look in there, there's little clips which what you do is push a flat screwdriver into each clip, which will release them. There's about 4 or 5 along the front. Don't just pull this or prise it, because there's a good chance you'll snap one of these clips. So just go easy if you're taking the front off. So we've got the couple of bolts off the bottom of the EGR cooler. Now it's just hanging on through the various pipes, so hopefully with a little bit of persuasion you can see the cooler is now flexing. So when I take it off, I'll show you the bolts that need undone, because it's not as many bolts as you think. and I've spent a lot of time trying to undo bolts that you don't need to, so hopefully I'll be saving you a bit of time here. So hopefully, to try and save you a little bit of time, here's how it goes with the EGR cooler. Now this is just a stock photo that I've got for the cooler itself. Now it's removed. You can see that's upside down in the photo because you can see the actuator at the bottom middle of this photo. And the bolts that you need to undo, there's two on the exhaust component, which is the two at the top right. Then you've got just a standard bracket bottom right. And the very left hand side connects to the actual EGR solenoid valve itself, and then the one somewhere in the middle is the one that was hidden that I did point out on the body of the car. So that's the bolts there. Looking at the EGR from the reverse side, and you'll get an idea of how those bolts fit together and where they go actually on the car. So you can see the two that go into the manifold itself there. Here you can see another way of doing this to get at the EGR itself, the EGR cooler. Really, you have to take the V-belt off and the air conditioning pump. Now, all I've done is I haven't undone any pipes or lost the gas from it. It's just so that you can move it over and out of the way to get at the bolts here, because there is a heat shield that covers the front of the EGR cooler bolts, which are these ones here. Now you can see now the EGR cooler is loose. We have that pipe fitting out, but we have left it attached on the bottom there just for the moment. Now, as it turns out, that is about as much as you need to be able to get the coolant pipe out. And that's what we're going to do. So now that the EGR cooler is free, we can work on the pipe itself. So like I just said before, the real trick to this, to be able to put this new pipe, you can see this is our new coolant bypass pipe here. The real trick to it was cutting the pipe here, which allowed us to slide it out that way. Because if you look to the right, there's very little space. We couldn't have taken it out as one piece. So it does look like, unless you potentially lift the engine out, take the manifold off, take the turbo off, this isn't something that you can really get at and do. So that's how we did it. So it's still the new pipe, that part there, and then back up here, I'm not sure if you're going to see it because we'll put the rest in, but that little piece of rubber pipe you can just see is the only piece that we've replaced. It then goes back to the metal pipe and up to the back here, and you can just see it at the bottom of the pipe there, which then goes off to the heater matrix, and that's how we've got around it. So you can see the new pipe is in place. However, we have hit upon a problem. There are two washers, one here which goes onto the EGR cooler, and the other is on the other end of this new pipe, which I'll show you. You must put new rubber washers on these because, and I know this because we found it out the hard way, they do not work after they've been used once. So basically they need replacing, otherwise they'll leak, and we found out because ours started leaking after putting it back together. So we need to do it. So what I'll do is I'll show you the old pipe and how we've joined it together a little bit, like, so you can see what it looks like actually on the car, so you've got an idea of how we've fixed this problem. Here we go. Here is the pipe that we've replaced. Now again, if you actually look at the damage on the old pipe, it's pretty severe, so hence why we've replaced the whole pipe, not just done a quick chop out replacement. So this is what it looks like, something like that, as you can see. So what we've done with the new one is we have cut around about the same area. So we've made a chop to the new pipe around about here on it, and then, so we haven't cut any pipe out, and then what we've done is, once it's back on the car, used a piece of rubber hosing like this to then join it back up, even though the metal pipe is practically pushed together pretty much like you can see here, and then this rubber pipe, just join it together, make it all waterproof. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to the pipe diameter and thing like that that I've used down below there, and you can see this end is the end that pushes in on the left hand side of the car, and again this needs a rubber washer, so I'll also put the 2 rubber washer parts down the bottom. But once that's all back together, we'll be able to pressurize the system up, put coolant back in, and hopefully that will be the end of our coolant saga. So fingers crossed that this does the trick for us. It's all back together. You can see we've put the turbo intake back on, put all of the pipes, everything back on. We've added coolant to the system, and we've had it for a couple of runs, and the good news is that has stopped all of the leaks. So in total this has probably been, well, it's been a fortnight or so. Not all work, but an awful lot of man hours to actually do this. So I suppose the conclusion to this is, should you do it yourself? Probably not. However, garage cost for this job would be quite considerable. I'm going to see if I can get a quotation for it to compare up and find out. But there we go. So we now know quite a few different things. We know how to take the V-rib belt off, and the air conditioning compressor, the EGR cooler itself, know how to clean out the EGR actuator valve, and of course the coolant pipe and the thermostat down the side. So it's all done and all back together. So remember, if you've liked this video, please do give us a thumbs up, stick a comment down the bottom, and if you've got any more questions, please let me know. But otherwise, we'll see you in the next video.